I have been helping out with the Charles E. Kubley Foundation for several years. I heard about it first from my mother-in-law, Chris Rick. I wanted to get involved and be a part of the YLC since I experienced anxiety and depression myself.
How did I hear about the Charles E. Kubley Foundation? Well, since I am a part of the Kubley family, I have been around since the start. I got involved about 4 or so years ago, kind of right as I was graduating college. I had an idea to start a fundraiser kind of aimed at young adults. And kind of since then we've continued expanding, and then that's kind of what got us into the creation of the council, which has been really rewarding.
I've been involved with the Charles E. Kubley Foundation for quite some time now. Charlie was my mom's youngest brother, and I was his oldest nephew, so I did have the good fortune of knowing him pretty well back in the day. As a result, I have volunteered in countless fundraisers we've thrown throughout the years. And in the last year or so, picked up a more prominent role joining the Young Leaders Council, which has been doing a lot of great work since our inception.
I got involved with mental health awareness, suicide awareness through the way I think, unfortunately, a lot of people get involved, and that's that it's something that affects them personally. I unfortunately lost some family members to suicide, and also have some family members that are struggling with mental health, and it's not one of those topics you really discuss until I feel like it's something you're involved in or something that affects you.
I first learned about the Charles Kubley Foundation from a friend of mine who works in the nonprofit sector, and I was actually interested in finding a nonprofit that was working towards fighting depression and eliminating the stigma. And I asked my friend if she knew of any place that was doing work in the mental health field, and she mentioned the Kubley Foundation to me, and I looked it up, and I thought they were doing some really great things, and I wanted to be a part of that.
I knew Lily from high school, and I got connected with Chris just from my fundraising and started kind of coming into contact with them. I did this for my last year of college, and my first year that I started out in Chicago. And then Lily had this really opportunity for me to be on the Young Leaders Board. So I obviously was really excited about that and accepted that offer.
I wanted to get involved and be a part of the YLC since I experienced anxiety and depression myself. I think the first time I really experienced it was after college graduation, when you're entering the real world and there's a lot of unknowns and changes happening. And I know everybody fights their own battles, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to look for help elsewhere if you can't find it within your immediate circle. And the Kubley Foundation does a great job expanding it and creating that conversation around mental health.
So the first time I kind of remember experiencing a mental health concern was honestly when my Uncle Charlie died. I was about 10 years old at the time, and I had no idea what mental health was. Obviously, I really had no understanding into what suicide was, and I really didn't know that he died that way for a little bit of time. But when I began to understand and it was revealed to me how he died, that was the first time I really understood that someone can hurt so badly that they don't want to be here anymore. I think I was lost for a really long time on that especially, but it's also given me kind of a strong insight into mental health from a really young age, and I do think that that's kind of caused me to grow up and look at things a little differently in terms of mental health.
The first time I experienced a mental health concern dates back to my Uncle Charlie taking his life back when I was in 6th grade. I think at the time, the idea of depression and suicide was very foreign to me. I was very confused, had a lot of questions, and from there I think ultimately had a lot of feelings pouring over myself that I was really not accustomed to. I think at that young age, you're not really sure why you're feeling this way. You're not used to having maybe some of these feelings. You don't know how to cope with them. Didn't really lean on my family as well as therapy to really help me get back to a place where I felt I was in a good headspace. I think at that age, you do have some embarrassment around the idea of feeling this way and ultimately going to therapy, things of that nature. From there, I think in my older age, I have had a few more kind of mental bouts, and really have appreciated the fact that I, through a lot of the work the foundation has done, have felt very comfortable reaching out to others for help.
The first time that I experienced a mental health crisis was when I was about 16 years old. My brother was really sick and he was in the hospital for about a month. And at the same time, my mom and dad were going through a divorce. And this time was especially difficult for my mom. And she ended up losing her job during this time. She was drinking a lot more. There were days where she wasn't getting out of bed. And I just remember being very upset and frustrated. I didn't understand why she couldn't get up and go to work some days. And that was the first time that I got to really see how debilitating depression can be.
I had a friend in high school, and we went to college together too. And he was the funniest kid ever. He was amazing. He loved to smile and laugh, and he was the light of every party. There wasn't anyone who ever met him who didn't love him. And that's probably why it was so earth-shattering and devastating when he died by suicide my junior year. And that was really hard on all of us at school and all of his friends.
I think the Kubley Foundation does a great job expanding it and creating that conversation around mental health. And I hope that with the YLC, we can expand it into the younger age group and continue the conversations and continue doing things within the community. I think speaking up and I guess using social media to have a voice within this demographic is a big deal. I'm super excited to be posting about it and talking with everybody and having people understand what the Kubley Foundation actually does and helps with.
I feel very strongly that understanding anxiety and depression has helped me to see other people's behavior differently. I think it's kind of like another layer underneath what you see from the outside when you understand that people may have mental illness underneath. And although you shouldn't be excusing certain behaviors, I do think that there's always more than meets the eye when you're interacting with someone. And I think it's really important to take into account that mental illness does affect people and how they interact with others.
I think, I found one of the biggest things that helps me is my core group of friends who, I have no problem turning to when I'm not feeling myself. I think we really have an open door policy, and I always try to preach to them, having these feelings of depression, anxiety, etc. They're very normal, and I don't think it's anything anyone should be ashamed of. And do preach to my friends, I'm always here if you need to talk to someone. Sometimes the best way to kind of get these feelings off your chest is to open up. It's never good to let them kind of fester in your head and continue to build up from there. So I think that's really one of the biggest things I've learned too throughout the years. One of the things the foundation really preaches is eliminating the stigma that comes with mental health, both depression and anxiety. I think as we grow older and as it becomes more and more talked about, we realize really how many of us, either on a large scale or a small scale, are dealing with it.
I think just as individuals, we can do more to educate ourselves. And, there's so many books and podcasts and videos and magazines on wellness. And I think the more we learn and the more that, we work on ourselves, the better able we'll be to be able to help others and, keep fighting depression and keep fighting suicide and keep trucking.
Learning about depression and anxiety also made me realize that I had been struggling a lot in myself, and I didn't want to talk about it, I didn't want to tell people because I also had felt that stigma. It didn't feel real. It felt like something that you could just personally get over, and that it wasn't actually like an illness. And I'm so thankful for my time with the Kubley Foundation, because it's really made me feel heard, and it's made me feel so much more comfortable talking about the way that I feel, and people around me, I think, feel comfortable talking to me, when they are upset or are experiencing a mental health concern.
I'm super excited to be posting about it and talking with everybody and having people understand what the Kubley Foundation actually does and helps with. It's super important to me, and I really enjoy everybody that I've worked with here, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Being able to support and share the mission of the foundation is so incredibly rewarding to me, especially being a part of the Kubley family and knowing Charlie personally. Kind of being able to create this like long-lasting impact in the community has been just so awesome. It's hard to put into words, really, and being more involved in the foundation now has just been like, it's so heartwarming to see all these people who share the same mission as we do, and to see firsthand like how we're impacting the community is just, it's hard to put into words. So I'm very grateful.
It really means a lot to me to be able to continue to share and support the mission of the Charles E. Kubley Foundation. I give my family so much credit for turning a terrible tragedy and losing Charlie into something that is really taken off and made a difference in so many people's lives. You can see it here with all the support we have from people. We see these same faces every year. I think when it comes to mental health, whether you're suffering, whether someone's suffering, it really does touch so many lives. And the more we can do to eliminate the stigma associated with mental health, not being afraid to reach out to others, not being afraid to seek treatment, to seek help, the more lives we're ultimately going to save out there. I think at the end of the day, that's the core mission of what we seek to accomplish here at the Charles E. Kubley Foundation.
So when I found out about the Charles Kubley Foundation, I thought, what better way to get involved in an organization that strives to put an end to the stigma about talking about mental health and suicide and how it affects loved ones, how it affects our community, and in particular, being a young male in my early 30s, how stigmatized the discussion is for getting help or going to therapy or asking and reaching out to your friends and family saying, hey, I'm not feeling great, I need somebody to talk to, I need a resource.
Speaking up about depression and anxiety has made me realize how many other people are struggling and are too scared to talk about it. So I think that the work that the Kubley Foundation does really makes a difference in so many people's lives.